Residents sought warmth outside damaged buildings in Iran today after an earthquake hit the region near the border with Iraq. The quake, which had a preliminary magnitude of 7.3, left hundreds dead. Pouria Parki's Iranian Students News Agency, via European press photo agency, want to get this briefing by email. Here's the sign-up. Good morning. Here's what you need to know. A disaster on multiple levels. It's one of the worst security debacles ever to befall American intelligence. A mysterious group obtained many of the tools the U.S. uses to spy on other countries, and released them to the world last year, causing morale at the National Security Agency to plunge and experienced specialists to leave. Our reporters spoke to current and former officials about the breach, which has hurt operations at America's largest and most secretive intelligence agency. 15 months later, officials still don't know if the NSA was the victim of a brilliantly executed an insider's leak or both. An era of sweeping changes. One of our most popular stories over the weekend examined the Trump administration's strategy to reshape federal appeals courts. President Trump has already appointed 8 appellate judges, the most as early in a presidency since Richard Nixon. Separately, the administration is siding with doctors in scaling back an Obama-era effort to pay them based on the quality, rather than the quantity, of the work. The president is nearing the end of a 12-day trip to Asia. In Manila today, he noted his great relationship with President Rodrigo Duterte of the Philippines. A day earlier, Mr. Trump denounced his critics, from the haters and fools investigating his ties to Russia to North Korea's leader, whom he said he could call short and fat, lawmakers and harassment. A blitz of UAL harassment scandals has hit state houses from California to Florida, with accusations that might have been ignored in the past drawing aggressive responses. There's not the sense of trying to defend these guys in the same way, said Debbie Walsh, director of the Center for Women and American Politics at Rutgers University. Senate Republicans appear to have largely abandoned the candidacy of Roy Moore, the Republican nominee in Alabama accused of pursuing relationships with teenage girls when he was in his 30s. Trump administration officials cautioned that Mr. Moore should be allowed to defend himself. Our media reporter Michael Grinbaum looked at how the accusations against Mr. Moore are playing out on Fox News and on other conservative media outlets. Signs of a new crisis in Puerto Rico. Nearly 2 months after Hurricane Maria, much of the island's population is showing symptoms of post-traumatic stress, public health officials say. They have heart palpitations, sweating, catastrophic thoughts, one doctor said. They think I'm going to drown, I'm going to die, I'm going to lose everything. Separately, the small energy company from Montana that was contracted to rebuild Puerto Rico's tattered power grid billed at a rate far above the norm, even for emergency work. A white fish worker at a helicopter landing site in Manatee, PR industry insiders say the Puerto Rico Power Authority is paying whitefish 3 times the going rate for aviation fuel. Erica P. Rodriguez for the New York Times. The daily Republican tax bill. Listen on a computer, an iOS device or an Android device. Catch up at the end of day, like the morning briefing, then consider subscribing to our evening briefing. It's a rundown of the day's biggest news and the stories you won't want to miss, free, right to your inbox. Sign up here. Business. The U.S. approach to trade may be helping exports in other countries, including lobster from Canada. Operators of self-driving trucks are charting an autonomous future. And it's not all bad for drivers. An outline for the future of General Electric and the resumption of NAFTA talks are among the headlines to this week. U.S. stocks were mixed on Friday. Here's a snapshot of global markets. Smarter living tips, both new and old, for a more fulfilling life. How to be a smart Obamacare shopper. Here are tips for getting into a selective college. Recipe of the day. Homemade maple breakfast sausage is easier than you might think. Over the weekend, more than 300 people were killed in Iran after an earthquake near the border with Iraq. Parishioners worshipped outside a Baptist church in Sutherland Springs, Texas, 1 week after a mass shooting there. The First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas, was reopened to the public on Sunday evening as a memorial to the victims of a shooting there. Drew Anthony Smith for the New York Times. Lebanon's Prime Minister, Saad Hariri, who announced his resignation from Saudi Arabia, said that he was able to move freely and that he would return home within days. Many Lebanese remain skeptical. The n.f.l games offered more drama than expected. Here's what happened in Week 10. Thor Ragnarok earned an estimated $56.6 million to remain number one at North American box offices. Noteworthy drawing a skyline from memory. In today's 360 video, the artist Stephen Wiltshire drew New York City after spending less than an hour observing it by helicopter in memoriam. Liz Smith, the queen of New York's tabloid gossip columns, chronicled the lives of the rich, the famous and the merely beautiful. She was 94, cannot be separated from its artist. A Times film critic, Manohla Dargis, read Louis C.K.'s new I Love You, Daddy, through the lens of recent revelations about his UAL misconduct. The jokes no longer landed, its shocks felt uglier, cruder. She writes, quotation of the day, "It's like the world has thrown up Exhibit A for the plaintiff's argument." Heidi Lee Feldman, a Georgetown University law professor, on the effects recent mass shootings might have on a lawsuit against the maker of a gun used in the 2012 Sandy Hook massacre. Backstory: an engineering marvel of its time, the Holland Tunnel opened in New York City on this day 90 years ago. Excavating the Holland Tunnel at Canal Street in Lower Manhattan in 1922. Associated Press: the designer, Clifford Holland, oversaw many innovative developments for the pair of 1.6-mile tubes, including meeting the extraordinary challenge of guaranteeing sufficient ventilation. Highly stressed, he died of a heart attack at 41. That was several years before the tunnel opened, so he missed the debate over whether to ban horse-drawn vehicles. Perhaps we're more used to taking note of the competition for the world's tallest building, currently the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, with a Saudi contender, the Jeddah Tower, hoping to complete construction in 2019, but there's a global race on for tunnels, too. Europe claims the longest traffic tunnels, a 35-mile Swiss achievement, the 31-mile channel under the English Channel, and, in Norway, the singular Lærdal Tunnel, which has even hosted weddings. Then there's the Aqualine in Tokyo, 8.7 miles of underwater channel with a few miles of bridge riding atop. China, ever competitive as it seeks to meet the needs of more than a billion people, aims to build the world's longest water tunnel, a 600-mile conduit from Tibet to a desert in Xinjiang. Andrea Canapel contributed, reporting, _______. Your morning briefing is published weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern and updated all morning. Browse past briefings here. If photographs appear out of order, please download the updated New York Times app from iTunes or Google Play. What would you like to see here? Contact us at briefing@nytimes.com. You can get the briefing delivered to your inbox Sunday through Friday. We have 4 global editions, timed for the Americas, Europe, Asia and Australia, and an evening briefing on weeknights. Check out our range of free newsletters here. Correction: November 13, 2017. An earlier version of this briefing misidentified the author of an article about how conservative media outlets are portraying accusations of UAL misconduct against Roy Moore. He is Michael Grinbaum, not Jim Ruttenberg. Follow Chris Stanford on Twitter @Stanford.